I would like to talk with you today about data. So what are some words that you think of when you hear the word data? Do you think of privacy, complexity, security, data breach, GDPR? Or do you think of words like AI, innovation, machine learning, or even revenue? Today I'd like to talk with you about how data can be transformed into a true asset for you and your organization. Data is the most valuable asset you do have, but it's also the most risky. So what if there was a way that you could transform that and unlock the value of your data without compromising privacy or security regulations like GDPR? Today I'd like to show how we transform this lovely data file into actionable information that can be used both internally and outside your organization. So this tool is installed behind your firewall that enables you to ingest any kind of raw file, and then that transforms that into safe and secure synthetic data that can be used internally or externally at your organization. So I'm going to show you how to do this quickly. We're going to configure a debit file, and we're going to borrow a template here, a CSV file, and we're going to call this ABC Bank. Continue here. We're going to grab a template that we have. You can also add custom files. And as you can see here, you have all the different columns and fields that are typical to a data transaction set. And I'm going to leave it in the original form for now, so you can see how this tool works. And then we configure that, and then we're going to run this configuration. Now what I'm going to show you is an Aws Redshift Database. And within here, we have also worked with Google BigQuery, Microsoft Azure, and some of the other tools out there. So what we're going to do is we're going to show a clean data file that comes through. And as it does, you're going to see that the transaction data comes across. And it's, what this could show is that you would go into AWS Redshift, and you would be able to see the transaction data. And within that detail, it'll be clean, it'll be organized, but it also has PII information. And so you can't use that very effectively. So what we do is then we go back into the tool, and I'm going to create a copy of this tool, and within it, it's going to show a synthetic version. So as we do that, we go into the tool now, and I'm going to synthesize all of the fields. So what the tool is doing is it's going to go into all of the personal information like name, card number, address, etc., and it's going to completely hash those tools. But then it's also going to synthesize or create a fake version of the transaction detail as well. So it's going to randomly change some of those fields. But across millions of transactions that you own at your institution, it will still maintain its statistical relevance. As you go back into the AWS Redshift database, it would create a synthetic version. And that synthetic version, again, the PII information is completely removed, and then you have the transaction detail that you can still use. So there's a couple use cases here for this, and two key benefits that I'd like to share with you is one, we cannot even reverse engineer that back to the original source. We hired a certified third party to try to do that. They couldn't match it when they had the access to the original data and the synthetic data. We've also worked with the EU data privacy law firm. They have determined that this synthetic data process completely de-identifies the personal information and puts you out of scope for GDPR. So it is safe to use in various data monetization activities. Let me give you a couple use cases. One, internal use. So you as an organization can now have access to fake synthetic data that you can feel free to share with internal employees without risk of data abuse, data neglect, or even theft. And think if the synthetic data is exposed, it's fake. You can't develop a fake ID or do false charges off of that data. Another use case is for internal innovation and machine learning, AI. We have a large processor we work with that manages the card portfolio for hundreds of financial institutions. It was in different silos. They couldn't get access to the data. We brought all that data together, and now they have a unique dashboard where they can see the transactions across all of the cardholders. They can compare that between different peer groups and see how they're performing. They can even go into the different where the consumers are spending, what merchants are they spending at, how can they optimize their transactions and their cardholder engagement. So it provided a unique opportunity for this processor to really better understand their customers. The final use case and probably most profitable use case I'll share with you is that now you have data that you can take outside your organization and share with companies that will pay for those insights. And you can do it in a safe and secure way. So this is an example of data that we took to market for analysts and investors who were interested in streaming services like Netflix. They were able to see this data and see revenue per transaction, revenue over time, and revenue as the business models changed within Netflix. And again, they had no idea who the source was, and they didn't need the PII. They didn't need that personal information. So I started this off by saying, what if you could transform your data in a way that could protect privacy but still give you true business value? Synthetic data is a way to do that, and it does it in 3 key areas for your organization. Now, compliance and regulatory executives have access to data that doesn't put their organization at risk, and they can feel free to share that with others or outside their organization. Product and business technology executives now have access to data for testing, for innovation, for proof of concepts, et cetera, that are valid back to the original data source. And finally, business executives now have access to data that helps them understand their business more effectively, but most importantly, opens up new revenue streams for them through safe and secure data monetization. To learn how synthetic data can transform your business, please visit us in the network booth in the back. Thank you.